Greetings, Redheads. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Red's View. I'm your gracious host, Jay Red, and like always, I'm going to give my opinion, my review on stuff. It's time. It is time. It is time. It is time. The time has came, and I'm going to give my honest opinion, feedback, and criticism of Coming to America. And I'm saying coming to, like the number 2 America, which means coming to America too. All right. So yeah, before I begin this, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeAuthenticNetwork. And if you really, really love me, please support by the Cash App, $JAY R3D, which will be found below. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. This movie was good and terrible. Good and terrible. Good and terrible. Man. Like, I don't even know where to begin how terrible this movie is. This is a spoiler alert, so if you don't want any spoilers, just keep scrolling past, go look at another YouTube video or whatever. But this movie is good and terrible, man. And when I say I don't know where to begin, it's like, this movie was so iconic. And I know what the average listener is going to think, or the average viewer. You're going to be like, you can't compare it to the last movie. You know, you can't expect it to be better or just like the last movie. God damn it, yes you can. That was Coming to fucking America. Yes, you can. Coming to America. That is honestly, in my opinion, the best comedy film of all time. That movie came out the year that I was born. I saw it years later. That movie constantly played on USA, HBO, whatever movie channel you could think about. That movie constantly played. So that, it's so much to live up to that, to the fact that you shouldn't even have made this damn sequel 30 plus years later. But let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, so like, to me, the budget felt lower. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had to have been a lower budget. The first film, and I'm going to keep comparing and contrasting because, I mean, that's what you go off of. It's a sequel, right? But the first film felt more of like a production. You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt more theatrical. Now, I don't know whether it's the fact that it's on Amazon Prime, but it was supposed to be released in theaters, but this feels a step below in the budget. Not saying the camera quality wasn't good, but the budget seemed a little lower. It felt like it was straight to DVD. Straight to DVD quality. That's how I felt about it compared to the OG version. The editing, to me, this movie felt more family friendly versus the first one, which was, you know, had adult contemporary in and stuff like that. But the other one could have been perceived as family friendly a tad bit. It was something for everybody, but it still had edge. But this one felt like it was a fucking Disney movie. Kid you not. This felt like The Lion King. Like The Lion King mixed with Black Panther or some shit. Like, this was over the damn top for a comedy. The editing, it just felt like it was fast paced. Like, the first film was more, like I said, theatrical. Like, you know, it felt like, you know, time was spent on the script and time was spent in the editing process. It felt like, you know, that real movie. But this felt like a big ass SNL skit, in my opinion. This felt like Saturday Night Live did a spoof of this, of the original Coming to America. So that was another thing. Next thing, the storyline. The storyline was terrible. Okay. So Prince Akeem, his father dies, James Earl Jones, which looked very old in the film, but thank God he's alive to play his character. But he finds out that he has a son. He travels back to America. Well, first we found out he had a son. Arsenio Hall tells him that, yeah, you got laid that night. I think it was some shit about, I don't know if he was drugged or something, but he ended up having sex with Leslie Jones. So they fast forward, they fly back to New York, which looked like Atlanta, and he tried to find his son. He found his son automatically, and then his son hops back on the plane with him, brings Leslie Jones, which is the baby mama, back with him to not Wakanda, but Zamunda. And then, you know, he has to be able to test himself to be able to be the heir of the throne. When Eddie Murphy, Prince Akeem's daughters, you know, it was unfair to not have her be the heir. Why can't a queen be the heir and all the other stuff? To me, they could have really just focused on that. Today is a great time to make a movie like that where it focuses on you know, with the whole gender neutrality thing. Like, you could have did that. You could have stuck with it. The fact that he had a bastard son was not funny. It was not interesting. And then what was worse is when they played clips from the old film and tried to reenact the scenes. Well, not reenact the scenes, but they tried to play off of the old film with CGI. Like they tried to play 1988 versions of themselves. Arsenio Hall got past it just a tad bit, but when it came to Eddie Murphy on that couch, Lord have mercy. Like you could see they CGI'd his chubby face now with his younger face back then. It looked terrible, unbelievable when he was with Leslie Jones. It was terrible, very terrible. Next, yeah, just the fact that he's having sex with Leslie Jones, like the storyline just did not feel believable at all. That was fucking terrible. And he was going through to be the king, the heir to the throne. And it felt like it wasn't based off of Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy wasn't the sole focal point like he was the last movie. You know, I understand they had to do new things, and you know he's being a parent now, but that's why you should have waited to release this damn movie 30 years later. Yeah, and it felt like part of it, this shit felt like a damn musical. You know what I'm saying? Like Tiana Taylor, who was supposed to be Wesley Snipes' daughter to marry into the family of royal blood, she played Vanessa Bell, like another version of Vanessa Bell Calloway, with the whole "I'll do anything that you like, I'll do anything that you like." And she comes out and she performs, and then his son comes up and starts performing, rapping. Like she was singing and he just starts rapping out of nowhere. This shit, that was like a musical. Like what the fuck am I watching? What is this shit? It looks so fucking terrible. And then the biggest part of this movie that I felt was a big letdown was it wasn't funny. I should have started off with that. The film just simply wasn't funny. Like I chuckled in the very beginning when Wesley Snipes is introduced, his character. Because Wesley Snipes was pretty funny. I could give him that. You know what I'm saying? I'm used to Blade Wesley Snipes, White Man Can't Jump Wesley Snipes, or action hero movie star Wesley Snipes. But he's the only one I felt like did a pretty decent job in the movie as far as being funny. But other than that, the cast that they had, man, like, first of all, the barbers weren't funny. And the barbers were a big essential part of the last movie. And I know everybody had the question that I had. How are these barbers still alive 33 years later? I know that this is a comedy and it's a movie and it's make-believe, but that stuck to my head when I was watching it. I'm just like, it's not believable. You know what I'm saying? Like the first film felt believable. The old Jewish guy, that motherfucker gotta be at least 100 plus. He looked damn near 100 in the first film. So that was crazy. The barbers weren't funny at all. Next, Randy Watson, Sexual Chocolate, he wasn't funny. He wasn't funny. They had him at the end. That shit wasn't funny. The preacher, you know what I'm saying? When Arsenio Hall plays the preacher, he wasn't funny. It felt like it was forced. All those characters felt forced. Like, oh, we gotta cram all of them in the movie just based off of nostalgia to make it to be legit. You know what I'm saying? But they weren't funny. And let me get to Leslie Jones. It's time. Leslie Jones may be funny to white people, but I don't think she's really funny to the black community. I'm gonna just say it just like that. I don't think so. She may be funny a little bit, but she reminds me of that Tiffany Haddish, over the top, like stereotypical black woman, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna do this. Let me get my drink on. Let me get this. You know what I'm saying? And to some people, may be funny, not just white people, but I don't think Leslie Jones is funny. Never have. Next, Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan to me just isn't funny. Even when he was playing Hustle Man and Martin, he really just wasn't funny. He does that kind of over the top type of black stereotype comedy that white people like. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being real. That's why I say this feels like an SNL, a Saturday Night Live skit, opposed to a black comedy film. You know, so Leslie Jones and her playing the baby mama, that shit was terrible. Her and Lisa got into it, which Lisa looked beautiful, by the way. She's aging, but she looked tired in the movie. That's another thing. A lot of they tried to base it off of the nostalgia, bringing the original cast back, as many as they could, but they all look old and tired. You know what I'm saying? Like, this movie honestly should have been made 20 years ago. If this movie would have came out in the 90s, I bet you my top dollar that it would have been just as good or even better than the original. I have no idea why they even touched this, but let me keep going. The new Prince of King, Well, I think Akeem Jr., whatever his name is. I don't know the brother's name who played him. Terrible, though. Terrible. He was terrible in the trailer, but he was a terrible actor. Like, he wasn't funny. He was, I mean, I don't know if he's a terrible actor I've never seen his other movies, but in this movie, it was terrible. It felt goofy, real goofy. The part where he has to, tame the lion and all that other shit, and the lion looks CGI and fake. It was fucking terrible, man. Like, he wasn't funny. He didn't give me anything. And it was parts where it felt like a Disney movie. This felt like really an animated version of Coming to America. That's how it was. Like, I'll go back to Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes was a little funny. He wasn't just hilarious, but I did enjoy his character over everybody else's character. Eddie Murphy wasn't funny. Arsenio Hall wasn't funny. It was parts, and it was moments where I just wanted to cut this shit off. That's how bad it was. I found myself looking at my phone, looking at this like, oh my God, I watched it and continued to watch it off the strength of the culture and off the love of Eddie Murphy. That's why I kept going. Yeah, man. The next thing is the set design. Most of it looked like it was shot at Rick Ross's house. You know what I'm saying? Like, Rick Ross, the rapper, we all know that it was shot there. They heavily promoted that it was shot there, talked about how luxurious his house was, which used to be Evander Holyfield's house. We get it, goddamn. But you could, like, when they went out and looked in the pool, it's like that shit didn't look like no fucking Zamunda, or they were in Africa. You could see the damn CGI where it looked like they were outside and stuff. Looked like that shit was shot at Tyler Perry Studios. And it was, I think they shot some scenes over there, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, the set design looked like it was at Rick Ross' house. It didn't feel believable. They had Salt and Pepper on there performing. So James Earl Jones, who plays Prince of King's father, he said, look, I want to have a funeral while I'm alive. He has a celebration funeral and then literally tells Akeem, okay, I'm going to die now. And he passes away while being entertained. It just didn't add up. It didn't make any sense. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, I literally, he died on stage. Like, I don't know what that was about. None of the scenes looked like New York. It looked like it was shot in Atlanta, maybe because I live in Atlanta and I know it was shot in Atlanta, but the last movie felt like it was in New York. They went to a fucking Knicks game. Like, it looked like New York, but it just felt like a big set. This did not feel like a movie. It felt like a damn near stage play. And like I said before, the movie wasn't primarily focused on Eddie Murphy. It was focused on, or his character rather, it was focused more so on, they tried to bring in so many different characters. They have, cameos. They have Morgan Freeman in there. Just saying, just to be there. They have Matumbo in there just to be there. None of these characters or these cameos felt important and vital to the film. The last film had a big, major black cast, right? But this one felt like just a big spoof, like a family reunion of everybody, coming in and doing stuff together. But I felt like it was too many damn cameos. Like, it was just too many. And what I've said this before and I'll say it again, they waited too long. They waited too long. John Amos looked old as shit in this movie. He looked tired. He was still doing a good job acting, but nothing felt believable about this movie. The last movie, you gotta compare it to the last movie because the last movie felt like a movie. The plot was like a fairy tale. The characters were great. The story, even though it was a comedy, it felt like that could really happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, this one felt like they just did a rendition of the original film. Like I keep saying, a Saturday Night Live skit or something like that. It didn't feel believable. And that's what that movie did. When people go back and watch it, they don't watch it just for the comedy. They go back to watch it because it feels like our version of what considered would have been a Disney movie mixed with edge in it. But this felt like a pure Disney musical type of shit. Like, it was all over the place. The soundtrack was horrible too. I heard some Megan Thee Stallion in there. No disrespect to Megan, but that just didn't fit the movie. Yeah, man, it was terrible, terrible. And like I said, it's not just because I'm comparing it to the last movie, but just if you ever seen I Got the Hookup 2, all right? If you've seen I Got the Hookup 2, this feels like a more professional version of I got the hookup to. You know, the editing and acting was better in this one, but it just fell all over the goddamn place. Like, it was everywhere. You didn't even know what to think. Like, everywhere. And for the people, I'm glad some people are enjoying it. It's getting mixed reviews. Of course, it was probably bound to get mixed reviews because it's compared to a big classic, gigantic classic. But filmmakers, you should not wait too long to release movies. I say 15 years tops. After 15 years, go ahead and cut it off. Bad Boys 2, the gap between Bad Boys 2 and Bad Boys 3, it was a gap, but they were able to produce a good movie. Best Man in the Best Man Holiday, it was a large gap, but they were able to produce a good movie. The characters they looked a little older, but everybody black didn't crack, and it felt believable. That's all that we asked for. And I don't know if this was just a money grab or whatever the case was, but maybe if we would have saw it in theaters, it would have been different. But this movie looked like it was made for Amazon Prime, if you get what I'm saying. It felt like it was for DVD. And you know how they'll have those DVDs like The Sandlot. You remember, like, they had The Sandlot 2 and Sandlot 3, and all those went to DVD. This is what this shit feels like. And yeah, man, very disappointed, very disappointed. So yeah, it is what it is. I give this a fucking 1 out of 10. 2 thumbs down. Eddie Murphy, you didn't need to do this to your career, to your legacy. Yeah, it just wasn't. I'm trying to see if I'm missing out anything, but y'all let me know in the comment section what you think. This was good and terrible, like I said. I hope they don't do another sequel to this. Please just leave it alone. Leave well enough alone. It doesn't ruin the fact that Coming to America, the first one, was a classic, but this shit right here is just why. They even had Rick Ross in the goddamn movie with a terrible accent, and you know they put him in there just because they shot at his house. They could have did better. I don't know if, I guess the budget was lower or whatever the case is, but this movie was terrible. But let me know. Give me your feedback. Like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeAuthenticNetwork. Make sure you follow me at JAYR3D on all social media platforms at JRed. Book me for your next DJ event here in Atlanta. And Cash App. Cash App to support the show. I need to set up a Patreon. I got it set up, but I got to put it on here and stuff like that. But support the show, support me. Shout out to DJ PM, shout out to Sean Hughes. Hey, man, this is Red's View, signing out.